plate, so you don't have to. And some of the things that people are othered for, you can't take off their plate.
Absolutely not.
Like being handicapped or being a person of color.
Mm-mm.
I don't remember if I shared this with you, but when we went to adopt children, one of the things, so we went through a program that was special needs adoption.
Yeah.
So all of the children in that particular grouping were considered special needs for whatever reason, whether they were too old, like they'd been in the system so long, nobody wants to adopt an older child. They had some mental, some physical, some emotional issue.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were the kids who were in there because they were black. And I was like, wait, what? So these children are special needs because they're black? Mm-hmm. And I was like, my head was about to explode.
Yep.
And they said, well, because, people want to adopt little white babies. And I was like,
what?
Okay. White people, I get, and I kind of on one hand do understand people want to adopt children who look something like them for whatever reason. We ended up with white children, but the first several children that we inquired about to adopt were not. And it just so happens that they were not the right fit for us according to their caseworkers and whatever. And that worked out great because we got our children.
Yeah.
So cool beans. But the fact that a child in the system is considered special needs just because of how they're born.
Yep.
It's like just because of how melanated they are. Yep. It's like, that to me is bizarre. And it's like, at some point, that so speaks to everything else in our society.
Yeah.
And it's like, just crazy to me.
Well, and like, it is interesting. Parents want to raise a child that looks like them, like racially. I think that's interesting just because for such a huge portion of my life, I was raised by grandma. And we don't look alike, literally at all, right? I was a pasty little soft child, and she's a brown woman. Do you know what I mean? And I have so this.
Well, and by the age of 8, you're already taller than her,
right? So I remember when I first started going to school, when kids would be like, "Who's that?" And I'd be, "Oh, my grandma," and I'd be like, "Not your real grandma," because we looked so different.
Yeah.
People thinking that she was like my nanny, and I was like, first of all, how the hell rich do you think my family is that I have a nanny?
Right.
And also what? Like, how do you know this racial stereotype already? Do you know what I mean?
Right,
like,
that the brown lady is your nanny.
I remember being like, and that upset me. And I remember when I was a kid, I remember being very young, and I was very upset that grandma was brown and I wasn't. Because I was confused why kids were...
Same.
But you know what I mean? Like, why kids were shitty about it.
Yeah.
And I was also confused, like, why I was white and she was brown. That didn't make any sense to me. What happened to me? You know what I mean? And so, but it stemmed really from people not being like, oh, not realizing that we were actually blood related to my family.
Right.
And that being upsetting to me. But also, like, grandma was, like, a huge supporter. And, like, at some point, everyone knew she was Grammy. But I remember as a kid, it was just very, like, upsetting to me that people didn't think that we were family, that she was just the help. It's gross.
Yeah, no, I get that. Back to the whole mental health thing, I do want to touch on the fact that the first time I had any kind of experience with a mental health provider was after coming out to my mother as queer. Mm-hmm. I'm 16, and her first reaction was to get me into therapy to fix me.
Oh, God.
Because obviously I was broken.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And of course, that is not what you want. It's scary enough when you have to have that whole thing anyway. And so it's like, okay, well, let's get you quickly to the doctor so they can fix whatever's wrong with you.
Your broken brain.
Right. And so I went, and I remember I was a scared 16-year-old kid in an office with some man who I don't know from anybody.
Some man.
And first of all, I don't want to talk to a man. If they'd have put me in a room with some nice lady,
different, huh?
Different, but it was some man. And men have always intimidated me. Now I've always been attracted to men,
unfortunately,
but men have always intimidated me because I had a scary ass grandfather. Mm-hmm. I had, a stepfather who was just very distant and horrible and whatever. So men in general, I did not connect with, right?
Right.
And so they put me in the office with this guy who sat there with his little notepad because, computers weren't a thing then because it was the Stone Age.
Right.
But
he's chiseling it.
But he's chiseling it with his little on his stone tablet. That is a very good sound effect, by the way.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. But I didn't know what to do. I was like, what am I supposed to... Aren't you supposed to ask me questions?
Right.
Which I will maybe answer. I ended up most of the time sitting there. Like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to tell you. Because as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing wrong with me. Yep. At least not where this is concerned. Oh. I knew there were things that I needed to deal with. Yeah, but I was like, well, that's just whatever. It is what it is. Yeah. And so it wasn't until many years later when I divorced my second husband, because I'm on number third time's a charm. But when I divorced him, that's the one I lovingly refer to as the village idiot.
Oh, my least. Nope, that's not true.
No.
I bet, honestly,
top two. Yeah. Top two of the people you hate. Girl. Anyway, but he was also the one I was with the shortest amount of time. But when I was like, you know what? I need to figure out why I keep making these stupid choices. And so I went for therapy. Girl, I learned so many things about myself. And mostly what I learned was I have always thought I was not good enough. I was not worthy. Yep. I was not deserving of someone to treat me well and give me love and give me whatever.
Well, I mean, of course, the world has shown you that since birth.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for me, therapy changed everything. Right. Because it was then that I was all, oh, girl, I am all that and a bag of chips.
Basically,
and
I get that.
I heard someone once say, because I also, having always been fat, and I've been thinner, I've been fatter, I've been whatever, but I heard someone say, this is the body that you are given.
Yeah.
You either love it or you don't, or you do something about it, but you can't wait to be happy. Yeah. And I think that was such a profound thing for me, is like, you can't wait for happiness to come. Because happiness is what? Waiting for you to be thin? Yep. Waiting for you to be in love? Yes. Waiting for you to be what? Waiting for you to have the ideal job? You need to be happy, and then other things will fall into place. Yeah. So and I don't mean all of a sudden you're just going to magically be happy, but it's like you have to start by learning to like yourself and not be waiting for some day. Yep. And so that was when I literally started wearing shorter skirts. I started wearing things that were more, I think, age appropriate for me, because I had always worn really long, like if I was wearing a skirt that was not a floor length one, it was like past my knees. So I didn't show my scars on my knees, and I didn't show my fat legs, and I didn't, because I was so embarrassed of so many different things. And I was like, what? This is it. Yeah. And soon I'm going to be too old to wear this stuff, at least the way I was raised and the way I used to believe.
I get you.
But it's like, do it now or don't do it.
Do it, bitch, or don't do it. There is this, I don't know what she is, a reverend, a pastor, a preacher, who knows? I believe her name
is... A butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker.
She's probably all of it. Her name, I believe, is Nadia Bowles-Weber. Okay? And I watched a couple of videos a few years ago, and one of them was talking about your realized self versus like your actual self, and how people always think like they need to strive to become like their realized self, right? But the people that, like, the person you are is the person that all of your friends love, that all of your family love, right? It's not this idealized self. It's not this like perfect person, the thinner, the better, the richer, you know what I mean? The smarter. It's not that person. It's the person you are. So loving yourself now is loving your actual self, opposed to reaching for something different. And everyone in your life is here for who you actually are, not what you think you need to be, right? And that, to me, I was like, oh, holy shit. So, like...
Yeah, that's huge.
Well, she used it in the context of religion. So she said, like, so, the you that God, quote unquote, loves is your actual self, not your idealized self, where I'm not an alcoholic, or I'm fitter or whatever. Like, it is just who you are. You are great who you are.
Right. I think that so many people, though, get the pressure that is put on them by their parents or by society. It's like, well, yes, you say you love me, but then you want me to do this greater thing. Yep. And so many parents do withhold praise or whatever. Yeah. It's like, well, you did this cool thing, but now you need to do this cooler thing, or this better thing, or this bigger thing. And then perhaps I'll tell you I'm proud of you. Yep. And as someone who has lived my entire life without my parent ever saying I'm proud of you, I didn't even realize it until probably just last year. It was like, oh, yeah, that's a thing. I mean, never has that been said to me by either parent. I mean, my father's dead and he was never a father, but although he did once say to me, and I love this because it just tickled me. He and his wife at the time, God rest her soul, really great lady, were telling me, I was at their bar in Reno, and I had just learned that their bar was a swinger bar.
Love that.
Right? And it was like, they had just told me this big story about all the goings on at their bar. And my father, for whatever reason, turns to me and says, I hope you don't ever worry about what I think of you. To which I replied, at this moment, I really think you should be worried about what I'm thinking of you. Yeah. Right. I was like, ugh. Yep. And I don't care. But it was more like, when your parent decides they need to tell you about their sexual proclivities.
I don't like it.
No, I don't need to know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good point to make. Being people who have survived quite a bit of shit, that it is incredibly freeing to not live up to other people's expectations of you.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Once people are like, quote unquote, disappointed, or you just didn't live up to what they've always expected of you, you get to do whatever the fuck you want. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
If you don't live up to a girl and then they're disappointed, then do whatever you want. It is so freeing to just get to be you, and not care. Like, let me tell you, it's not always the easiest thing. And we've had this conversation before about if you are like different than your family. So like this example is like if you're queer, how do you come out to your family? And like what we've talked about is if you are safe and you feel like you can do it, then do it. But if you're in a small town with a conservative family, a religious family, and you know how they're going to react, it's going to be ugly.
Don't do it.
Then you don't come out. Then you turn 18, you move the fuck away, and then you come out to them if you feel like it.
Right, once you're safe.
Once you're safe, girl, you don't... And I know that's ugly, but what's more ugly? Going to conversion therapy, being beaten, being murdered. And I know hiding your true self is hard. I get it. But girl, do it.
Speaking of conversion therapy, I just...
You started going.
I started going because I'm trying to convert to Judaism. Oh, wait, that's the wrong kind. That's not right. No, that's where you worship Judy Garland. Judaism.
Judaism.
Yeah.
Yes, man.
No. But I was listening to this woman who was from England talk about conversion therapy, how they're working to ban all conversion therapy except for trans people. Because you can somehow convert someone into not being a woman or a man. I don't think that's how that works.
Listen to me. Any dumb cis het person who thinks that you're just going to tell some trans person to not be trans.
Don't be trans.
I'm going to tell you something, bitch. If it was that easy, they just wouldn't be trans. Do you think people actively choose to go through life being like shit upon by the government, by society, by people, by everyone, to be at the bottom of that heap and having the shit kicked out of you while everyone else watches? Like, I don't think that's a choice that people make. I think that it is a choice of survival. And so for people to be like, oh, well, we're going to still have conversion therapy. For what, bitch? You're just going to make the suicide rate even fucking higher.
Right.
It's ridiculous to me.
All right, listen. So we have talked probably longer than we should. But I'm going to go to a quick little break. Annika's actually going to do a commercial on our commercial break.
Oh my God. Kind of.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be back with my Tales from the Drag Closet.
So last time we talked about mental health provider that you can use from home. And there's one that I actually use. It's called Lyra. Lyra. And you can sign up through lyra.com. And here's the cool thing, is a lot of employers actually give you free sessions. So I don't know all of them exactly, but check with your benefits at work and you might be able to use the service. But for example, through my job, I get 20 free sessions every year. And again, there is a plethora of providers. They work with you from queer issues to depression to anxiety, ADHD, again, EMDR, which I did. And it can be